Great, you mentioned Ukraine. I would start, before I'll tell you what 5G Compad is, and we will discuss it a bit more, the focus of it. You can go back and look even at Desert Shield. US had, was it 60,000 tons of supplies to carry with them, entering Iraq. Communicating where they are was paramount. We saw when Russia tried to enter Kiev, it was a 50-kilometer queue. That was not a successful one. So that as a backdrop, EDF, European Defence Fund, had identified that communication is important in the defense and peacekeeping and defense. And therefore there was a connectivity group started working. We have a consortia which got, so to say, co-financing from EDF, where the task is to find efficient ways to use where and how to use 5G. The consortia consists of the two normal suspects as network suppliers, Ericsson and Nokia. So Ericsson is driving the technical work there. Then we have 8 different companies associated to defense and 3 research institutes, a few SMEs for special competence. And finally, we have 2 operators. We didn't want to make it an operator, how do I sell more business, but we actually wanted to pick in the experienced guys who have started to look at defense, and that was Telenor and LMT. And together with them, so to say, create this architecture, how should 5G be used. And maybe you want to comment your expectations on the project.
Thank you, Arne. Good morning. I would just wanted to add on what you said before about the telecommunication technologies coming into the Ukraine, actually much more before the Ukraine. So the guys in the auditorium I see from the armed forces, I think will agree with me that actually NATO started to fight against telco technologies already in much earlier. In the Afghanistan, that was a huge problem. So that's absolutely logical that we are trying to understand this direction. The advantage that the telco operators are actually on board of the 5G Compad is, I think we are perfect link to the end user in this complicated consortium, because we have like large defense companies like Saab, Rheinmetall, then we have honorable vendors, Ericsson, Nokia, and from the telco side, then we have the operator, which has always been closer to the customer in this particular telco world. That's the one thing. The other thing is, again, Ukraine's experience, because as the telco operator in Latvia, we are heavily following the events in Ukraine. We are following how the Ukrainian telco operators are dealing with the problems they are facing now at the moment during the war, especially at the first period of time. And the core message, what we discussed with Arne yesterday, the core message, what has to be understood from the 5G Compad, and it's very important because often people somehow tend to mix it up. We are not saying at any moment that what we are doing with the 5G will replace like conventional combat communications. That's absolutely not the message. The 5G might be good sort of the alternative communications. That's point 1. Point 2, we have to understand how to use the 5G in non-conflict zones. So as it was discussed yesterday on the panel about the 24/7 connectivity for defense, there are a lot of different things which are not just fighting the war. There are activities before that thing, and hopefully that not happens. And as Ingmars yesterday said, it's better than 100% of what military does. Actually, is not fighting the war, but communications and connectivity is always there, and I think that's kind of an angle that we as the telco operator, which already for I think 5-7 years is heavily following what is going on in defense, the 5G for defense. We are strategic partner of the Ministry of Defense of Latvia, and that's, I think, the logical way how we got our role in the project.
Yes, and picking up on what Kaspars said there, we have in the project or in the consortium split the areas of interest into 3 areas: the home zone or the facilities we call, which is warehouses and whatnot. Then we have the support zone and the battle zone. And precisely as Kaspars says, we know 5G is not good for everything. The question is, where is the reward bigger than the risk involving 5G? And that was very well. I met the Swedish defense, and they had very good definition. Okay, we use 5G where the reward is much bigger than the risk. Then there are still tactical radios, of course, needed, because 5G is not there for everything. If I would be really marketing, I would say, oh, 6G will solve all problems. That will not either happen, by the way. So we split it into these parts to create a reference architecture, how you could utilize 5G network. We then looked at a number of use cases, and there were actually collected use cases, which are from all zones, actually most from the support zone, because that's deployed bases and those kind of events where you go somewhere, set something up, but you are not on the front line, so to say. We are also studying battlefield parts. So we have identified use cases, and I'm happy about the fact that a use case might have different usages or applications. They might have different priorities, different latency demand, different quality of service, bandwidth demands. And of course, that's the architecture we in 5G want to build, that, okay, if you want to consume or utilize 5G connectivity for these kind of topics, then this is the architecture we should do. So we will build a reference architecture, and to comment the security discussion here earlier, it was actually interesting to notice that 5G is not secure. No, vanilla 5G is not secure. However, we have many optional things in the 5G that significantly improves the security. And this serves just as an example that in the architecture, we also need to point out that you need to utilize these parameters or choose these options in 5G if you truly want to have the 5G connectivity utilized in defense. As you said, it's not going everywhere there.
The other thing I wanted to add on what Aarne said, and again, that's as I think we all felt yesterday during that 24/7 panel here, is interoperability thing. So another direction we are from the architecture side looking into in the project is the interoperability with the conventional combat communication means, the integration of the 5G private network with the combat radios, the integration of the 5G private network with the public network. So those are very important things, because from the architecture side, each of the setups of the network can play a different role in different situations. And the another point on the importance of the telco operators to be involved in the project as such is the experience, because we have in the room our security director from LMT. So these guys are people who are fighting and facing telco operators' modern days problems daily, all the cyber attacks, all the physical security questions. So that's very important to bring that perspective into the project, and that's what we are doing. And the use case wise, that's the important highlight here is that when we were at the early stage of the project, defining the use cases, that was huge involvement from the participant countries' MOD. So basically the use cases are formulated generally by the potential end user. And there can be a difference from country to country. taking into account, for example, Latvia's geographical situation, which is having not the best neighbor in possible, right? We are very focused on the homeland defense thing. We are most likely are not thinking so much about the expeditionary operations as the homeland defense. And in the homeland defense use case, there is a critical importance of the telco operators, because telco operators will be involved almost on the front line, restoring destroyed infrastructure, maintaining communications for not only public safety or defense entities, but as you mentioned, the refugees, the ordinary people, because that's kind of a switch of the mindset, because when we were facing the COVID, then the military came to help the civilian population. In times of the full-scale war, as in Ukraine, that's a bit different situation. The army will be doing its job fighting on the front line. The civilian and public safety entities will have to help to do that and secure the backs of the guys fighting. And that's where the ordinary communication means will play significant role, because you cannot give expensive Harris radio station to everybody, and there are a lot of problems with that as well.
And I think that is exactly one of the topics that are extremely interesting for us. How do we ensure the unique 5G, because there will be 5G standalone networks deployed by or for the defense forces, but we need to coexist. And the example Kaspar gives is a very good, take care of your homeland, the civilians in Ukraine or here or wherever. But there are other examples. There are also the logistical train. If you want to take logistics ashore in Rotterdam and want them to get them to Potsdam, want them to get to Stettin, for example, how do you know where your goods are? How do you keep control of your supply chain unless you partner with the operators? So there are actually multiple things we need to also, and which opens by using 5G, but we also need to make sure that it works, so that you can take care of the civilian, and we can also see that this, for example, logistic flow works across country borders, because Europe has quite a number of countries. It's not so that one defense organization can set up a network covering everything. And this is an example of like border requirements we have in the project, that, hey, see to it that you can coexist. And from Ukraine, we see that having like a bubble built by a defense will be much stronger if you then have a few overlaying operator networks, more than LMT even, multiple operators providing. Then you have multiple layers of networks, and that's of course increased the resilience. Then again, back to the security question, what can we transport over what networks? We will have a look at that and try to, so to say, build a picture of that. But that's very much the defense players in the project. We are, if I'm nasty, Ericsson and Nokia are the pipe provider and telling, this is the pipe, this is how it works, this is what you can do. These are the capabilities you can consume. Because as talked here very much on this conference, that 5G is much more than mobile broadband. So how do we expose, for example, quality of service definition or geofencing, or how do we localize people? How do we guarantee latency? How do we ask for edge compute? All these capabilities need to be described so that the defense applications can consume them in a correct way. And then, before I let you back, sorry, I'm now talking a lot, but then one of the things that we feel as a 3GPP supplier, we are providing civil equipment that defense can use. One thing that is important for us and what we think is disruptive is that this is actually separation of concerns. If the little I've looked at the defense systems today, they're pretty much locked in from hardware to top. What we want to do is say, okay, this is what you can expect from the connectivity layer. The application can evolve utilizing the connectivity capabilities without, you don't need to go and upgrade the connectivity while you can enhance your application or introduce new capabilities. Possibly you download or have something in the terminals then, UEs. So you can, so to say, separate the concerns and you don't get stuck to this multi-billion, always upgrade everything at once. We can even go to 6G as long as we keep the APIs similar towards the application layer. They don't need to care what kind of connectivity we have. So this is, so to say, one of the architectural principles we want to reach. Sorry, now I was too long.
We cannot mention 6G because we have 5G Compad.
Yeah,
so.
That's 5G.
But yeah, actually, I was from what you said about the locked-in systems, because military is very conventional and conservative type of the community, and from my personal view, I think the part of what we are doing in the 5G Compad is, of course, mainly understanding the architecture, all these things we described from the technical point of view. The other is the storytelling and trying to persuade people about things, because the 5G, of course, has been extensively marketized technology. You know, a lot of people, including us, who have been selling 5G, we have told a lot of nice, beautiful things to people, not only in uniforms, for all people, about all potential nice features 5G can bring, GPS independent positioning, etc., which might be, you know, sexy for the community. But I think we have very important task to keep it very low on the hypes and make it practical. And there's actually my question for you, Aarne, as the representing the vendor. What do you think will be our kind of the main challenge in persuading those people who have lived so long and who like so much, you know, nice big green, it should be green always in military, combat radio stations, how we will really persuade them, because that's something we are facing daily. Before LMT, I was in military for 13 years, so I know that it's hard to persuade those professionals. That's a very important task for us, actually.
Yeah, I think well, do you want the nasty answer or the more politically correct answer?
That's not a lot of people.
The nasty answer is give them gloves. I met a set of a defense organization, and there were these two groups. Those who said you can't do anything with private technology, and other ones who were saying we must have it. And we must have it were in majority in that group. So a glove fight would have ended in utilizing 5G also. No, but I think the only sensible thing is, of course, and that we aim at in this project, is show it. Because it doesn't end, the 5G Compad doesn't end with the architecture. We will test the architecture and we will demonstrate it. So as Kaspar was also asking, that's what I think we need to do. Come and look what we achieve, look at the achievement, so then seeing is believing. And it's not labs, it's the woods where we need to show it.
Perfect.
Thank you for having a chance to chat.
It says it's time up.
No
Can
problem.
we continue?
We have an audience question. If you have something to round up with, please do, because we have some more minutes. So there's a question on an online platform. How can defense and public safety agencies dynamically allocate network resources to meet the specific needs of different operations or incidents using the network slicing in 5G technology? Quite specific.
Very specific, and yes, slicing is one way to use it, but slicing doesn't increase the spectrum, for example. There You can do priority. This is essentially asking for priority. You can ask for either priority, you can ask for quality of service, bandwidth, or you can ask for latency and so on. All those capabilities are in 5G. Either UE can ask for it or the network can ask for it, or you can pre-allocate it, say that, okay, I will reserve this slice only for defense use or blue light people. You can ask it in both core network and in the radio network. So it's more a question of how you want to do it. And we've seen some players want to slice up front. Some people only want to slice in the core network, make sure that they have the core resources. Typically, they want to slice and put it on the edge, whereas they want to hide in plain sight, i.e. they want to just get priority through UE request in the radio. So there are multiple, and one solution doesn't always fit all. Slicing is good. If you really want to make sure, lock in your asset, you can do slicing. However, going to dynamic slicing, then it's already, you have better utilization on the radio. So long answer, but and I didn't answer straight on it, but yes, we have multiple options. Slicing is one, not the only one.
If you want to, you can round up with closing comments if you have anything left to say.
Oh, I think the question I was holding in my pocket was about bringing Aarne to talk about demonstrations, that we will do the demonstrations.
Yes, and we're actually happy to work with LMT because they are really pushing forward. So even if the consortium will build 5G bubbles, we have the chance to work with LMT. So probably you will see something here. The project still runs for short of 2 years, so there will be plenty to see.
Yes, and please do. Oh, we have a question in the audience. Sorry, sir. Didn't see your hand in the darkness.
Hi, Dean Bubley. A question. What happens when there are third parties involved in this as well, where it's the defence organisation, an operator, but maybe you have a tower company or a neutral host provider? I mean, here we've got an indoor system, for example. Does that still make it possible to extend the 5G utility across the public network, but you need to bring in those third parties as well somehow?
Yes, you could bring the third parties in. On the other hand, you could, utilizing 5G, you could see yourself as being an untrusted network. Because if you go to Bali or to some other country where you have a network, but you don't really know what kind of supplier you are, so you might be happy and say, okay, I have an untrusted network, I need to live with that, but I still get communication through. And then it of course becomes very important that the endpoints have the security and they know what security they have, because they can't trust the connectivity in between. But as said yesterday on the, was it 24/7, if you don't have anything else, getting communication through is good. And then the endpoints can still secure, because you can build root of trust, hardware root of trust even on the device, and you can have control of the application. But absolutely, that's a concern when you build, so to say, decide what level of confidentiality you have of the transport or carrier. Thank you for the question.
All right. Thank you. Thank you to Kaspars Pollaks. Thank you to Aarne Lindross. Thank you for your time, gentlemen, and for your expertise. A round of applause.
Thank you.